We need to give them some financial peace. But then when the question comes, hey, have you filed all of your tax returns for the last couple of years? And the answer is no. Oh, you're killing me. I do not understand why so many people do not file their tax returns. And some people are like, yeah, it's probably been about 4 years ago. Well, what the heck? Why not? What's going on? Well, probably the number one reason that people don't file their tax returns on time that they're completely wrong about is they feel like, well, if I file my return, then the IRS is going to start coming after me for that money that I owe. Listen, they're not going to come after you any sooner than they otherwise would, but now you're going to incur penalties by not filing that return.
Welcome to the Bankruptcy Podcast, a podcast about untangling the complex world of bankruptcy in Georgia. Each week, we deliver the best insights and practical advice on how to navigate the legal waters of bankruptcy with expert guidance and real-life stories. Now here's your host, Jeff Kelly.
Hello, this is Jeff Kelly, and in today's podcast, I want to talk about getting your tax returns filed so that we can move forward with your case. You would not believe how many people I have who we need to stop a foreclosure, we need to stop a car repossession, we need to protect their bank accounts, we need to give them some financial peace. But then when the question comes, hey, have you filed all of your tax returns for the last couple of years? And the answer is no. Oh, you're killing me. I do not understand why so many people do not file their tax returns. And some people are like, yeah, it's probably been about 4 years ago. Well, what the heck? Why not? What's going on? Well, probably the number one reason that people don't file their tax returns on time that they're completely wrong about is they feel like, well, if I file my return, then the IRS is going to start coming after me for that money that I owe. Listen, they're not going to come after you any sooner than they otherwise would, but now you're going to incur penalties by not filing that return. The other thing you do, you just set yourself up for a big problem down the road. I get it. Life is stressful. We juggle things, plates are up in the air. I raised 4 kids. I get it. Things happen, but you got to file that tax return every single year because if you don't, you're going to incur penalties. There's going to be a lot more stress down the road. And so what I want to talk about is, if you can use a professional organization, CPA, or, I guess I don't want to name names in case anybody has a bad experience, but there's a lot of good, reputable companies that you can use to get those tax returns filed. However, don't use your cousin that has never done taxes before that says, oh, I'm going to get you so much money back. And there are so many scams relating to getting your tax returns filed. And one of the biggest no-nos is making up a fake business so that you can deduct expenses to get money back from the IRS. They will catch you, they will bust you, and they will collect. The IRS is the only court system in the United States of America where you are presumed guilty until you prove yourself innocent. That is a really hard standard. Don't get in trouble with the IRS. File your returns on time. Be honest. If you owe money, that's okay. File the return anyway. They're not coming after you any sooner, but the penalties will be a whole lot worse if you don't file that return on time. And one other thing that a lot of people don't understand is, in theory, now, whenever we're dealing with the IRS, there's always exceptions to the exceptions. And as soon as I think I have them cornered, there's another exception. But as a general rule, if you have filed your tax returns on time and the tax debt is more than 3 years old and they've not filed a lien against any of your property, any type of secured lien, then we might be able to wipe that tax debt out in a Chapter 13 or Chapter 7. But If you filed your return that was due 5 years ago and you filed it yesterday, ugh, we can't wipe out any of that tax debt. Bottom line, file the returns on time. So, one other thing I want to point out about tax returns, as a general rule, a husband and wife in the state of Georgia are never liable for joint debts. There's no community property BS or anything like that in the state of Georgia. But when you sign a tax return, a joint tax return, you can end up being liable for somebody else's tax debt that results from that tax year. So be careful filing a joint tax return. Use a CPA, use somebody reputable. Don't use your cousin or the person, your neighbor down the road, or somebody that doesn't do this all the time. Don't do it. Now, having said that, if you're desperate and we've got 4 years of tax returns to file, what do we do? Well, like I said, the best thing is to hire somebody to do it. But if you can't, the IRS has an incredible website. Now, I'll be honest with you, as a general rule, I'm not a big fan of the IRS. But hey, whoever built that website, I am a fan of you. That is a good website. You can go to irs.gov. And the IRS does have programs for people who make less than $50,000 a year. They have people who are willing to help you get those returns filed. You can download the forms from the IRS website. And if you're a W 2 employee, meaning that, hey, you work for a large company like Shaw, Mohawk, or someone like that, and they just give you W 2 every year, that's a very easy tax return to fill out. You have no excuse for not getting those returns filed. Those are easy peasy lemon squeezy. Get them filed because you don't want to get caught in a situation where you meet with a bankruptcy attorney like me and I say, look, I'm not filing your case unless you get those returns filed now. Go do it. In theory, could you file a bankruptcy case without having all your tax returns filed? In theory, you can, but they always end up getting dismissed. And I'll tell you why. Because the same people who have procrastinated for years aren't going to file the tax returns within 30 days once the Chapter 13 is filed and the pressure is off. It doesn't matter the fact that the trustee says, hey, I'm going to dismiss your case and throw this case out. People still don't get the returns filed. So my policy is, look, file the return for crying out loud before I file the case. Otherwise, I'm not filing it. If I file a case that's going to get dismissed within 30 days, you're wasting my time. I'm wasting your time. We're wasting the court's time. I don't want to do that. File the tax return.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. If you're intrigued by the world of bankruptcy and want a comprehensive guide to help you get out of debt, head on over to kellycanhelp.com/welcome and subscribe to our email list to have a guide to bankruptcy in Georgia, helping people get out of debt delivered right to your inbox. Now back to the show.
Now, in a Chapter 7 situation, technically, you only need to have the last, most recent tax return presented to the trustee. But this is, in theory, you could get in trouble with the U.S. trustee when they start asking questions of, hey, how come you hadn't filed tax returns in the past 10 years? What's going on? Don't be a magnet for that. Just get your returns filed. And also, tax debt, if we know that you owe tax debt and it has a priority status, we can deduct that on our means test. And I can't if I don't know what you owe. So, long story short, get it done, get a professional to do it. If you can't get a professional to do it and you're a W 2 employee, you can go on the IRS website. It is amazing. It is really good. And there is a lot of good software out there that I've heard. I've never personally used it, but I'm sure you know the names of these tax programs that you can buy and plug in the information yourself and get it filed if you have a simple tax return. I totally understand if you're self employed, tax returns are complicated, especially these truck drivers. Oh my goodness. a lot of deductions. I get it. Bottom line is get your tax returns done, get them filed so we don't have a nightmare. Now, I want you to, if you have not downloaded a free copy of my book on Chapter 13 and Chapter 7, please go to my website, www.kellycanhelp.com and /welcome, and you can download one for free. Doesn't cost you anything. And my podcast website is www.kellybankruptcy.com. And if you would like to schedule an appointment with us, you can look for me on Facebook and you can schedule it yourself, or you can give me a call at 770-881-8449. On Facebook, I think you can just type in Law Office of Jeffrey B. Kelly in Georgia. It should pop up. I thank you for tuning in. It's a huge help and favor to me if you click the like button. Thank you. Thank you. And again, check out my website. We've got tons of information, blog posts, www.kellycanhelp.com. And I have a YouTube channel, Jeffrey B. Kelly. Check out my YouTube channel, and we've got tons of information for you. Thank you so much for tuning in. Bye-bye.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Bankruptcy Podcast. Make sure to visit our website, kellybankruptcy.com, where you can subscribe to the show in iTunes, Spotify, or via RSS so you'll never miss a show. While you're at it, if you found value in this show, we'd appreciate a rating on iTunes. Or if you'd simply tell a friend about the show, that would help us out too. If you liked this show, you might want to check out our guide to bankruptcy in Georgia, helping people get out of debt. Available at kellycanhelp.com/welcome. Be sure to tune in next week for our next episode.